Well, we'll do that as a take two. I'll edit that shit out. But but we're live. Welcome everybody to the Screaming at Walls podcast. I'm Nigel. I don't know where we are in relation on it, but we got Matt and we got Jakaya here. The purpose of the podcast is we all go look at various different videos, various different topics, and we try and take it from different little perspectives. Me as more of the centrist, Matt as someone who voted for Trump in the previous election. And then we got Jakaya here, our fabulous liberal, who likes to sit here and pick us apart on all of our rhetoric.
He is fabulous, isn't he?
And today we'll be taking a look at John Oliver, and we're going to be getting into a little tiny bit of some Second Amendment stuff. Primarily his hot take, in my opinion, on stand your ground and stand your ground laws in America. So I guess the easy way to kick this off, how do we feel about stand your ground and just stand your ground laws in general? What do we understand about stand your ground, I guess would be a good way to put it. And then how do we feel about stand your ground laws?
I guess
Love
my,
him.
so I guess my question is, because like I am on the lighter side of understanding all of the gun laws, is like, when does stand your ground apply?
So stand your ground. I mean, Matt, you may actually have a little bit more experience with this considering your previous employment. Um, do you feel confident to take a to explain stand your ground and how it relates to like castle doctrine stuff, or
I
do you
mean,
want me to take that?
I may have some of the definitions mucked up, but I know a lot of it kind of reverts back to if you feel threatened or any kind of threatening or risk of your life, or harm to yourself. That's kind of where the stipulation applies. I want to say. I mean, I can always double check on this because I don't know if it varies from state to state, because you don't see a lot of states that have this stand your ground.
It's
In fact,
yeah.
a lot of states kind of shifted around really heavily. Like Massachusetts has, in my opinion, one of the worst ones, which is no retreat. So essentially, in Massachusetts, they want you to be basically, if you are cornered in your house with no retreat, then you have the right to use lethal force. But if you have the option to retreat, you cannot. Whereas my understanding on stand your ground is if they're on your property or defending your castle and someone is threatening, your life or harm on you, great bodily harm onto you on your property, then you have that right. As my understanding, I could be wrong.
Yeah,
So
you're mostly correct. Stand your ground is in a lot of ways an expansion on the castle doctrine that a lot of states have, which is you have a duty to retreat in most situations, but if you are actually in your home and then you feel like there is an objective, like that's the big thing about castle doctrine and about a lot of self-defense laws, is that it has to be an objective, rational threat to your life. Then you are allowed to defend yourself. And in states that have a castle doctrine, you don't really have a duty to retreat so long as you are on your home.
Right.
Someone breaks into your home and you have a credible threat to your life. And so it can't be something along the lines of like, I'm deathly terrified of sharks,
So I have the
and
I have the abridged
and
lookup on this
because
too.
and because this guy, I cannot tell whether or not he is or is not a shark, I just shot. Like that's a very subjective fear for your life. I'm deathly afraid of AIDS, and I didn't know if this guy might have AIDS or not, so I killed him. It'd be like, well, no rational, like that's not an objective fear for your life. But if they were to come in and it's like the guy had a gun or the guy had a knife or the guy was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, then you do not have to retreat in any way, shape, or form. And stand your ground was an expansion on that, to where it removed in a lot of capacities the idea of duty to retreat. And duty to retreat was before you engage in any kind of self-defense with lethal measures, you have to try and retreat from the situation. And stand your ground essentially goes, not really. But you still have to meet that criteria in a legal sense of that objective fear. It can't just be someone comes up and goes, I'm going to kick your ass. And then you're like, like, no, you aren't. Or, it can't be like that. In that situation, you would still have to have a duty to retreat. But, or you would probably be charged at the very least. But if they were to come up with a credible threat, like they were trying to hit you with your vehicle, or say they had said something like, I'm going to fucking kill you, or even to the extent of, I'm going to rape you, like something along those
So
lines. Like
so
you
to
you
the
could then use lethal force in a stand your ground.
yeah yeah. So to the lookup on that, exactly what we were because I was going to mention about rape. So just the quick bridge of what I was able to find on this was a stand your ground law provides that people may use deadly force when they are reasonably believe it to be necessary to defend against deadly force, great bodily harm, kidnapping, rape, or robbery of some or other serious crime. So kind
Yeah.
of, So I'm a big supporter of it. I hate the retreat, the retreat factor because in most instances you don't have it, and the worst part about that is. Um, I feel that it applies a pretty specific scenario, which is kind of like so. Say you're in your living room, right? So you have the option to go out your back door, but that doesn't always apply. So
Yeah.
Well,
you're
Yeah.
it's
upstairs.
funny. It's funny because Nigel and I talked about this earlier. Actually, depending on um, the situation, I have not been like felt truly threatened in the fact that my life is threatened. But like we talked about how whenever a customer at work gets aggressive with me, my ability to retreat basically doesn't exist because I'm behind a
No.
counter, and
Yep.
my only way out is past that customer. I have to move
Yep.
through them or around them to get to an exit. So like I
Are
have
you?
no path of retreat whatsoever.
Yeah. Are you
Well, but
surrounded with like a plexiglass at all, or?
No, so the way mine is like the front like counter, like it's like an L shape basically, and the L is like the counter where the customers are at two different registers, and then the right side is a wall that leads outside with a window, and then the back is just a wall as well. So like
Well, they can
I mean,
touch you either way.
yeah, absolutely. If they were to come at me, I would have no measure of escape except to go back the way that they came.
Yeah. That
yeah.
So,
sucks.
Well, now that doesn't now while yet that is the case, but that wouldn't necessarily apply in a, like you would not have to utilize a stand your ground argument because you do not have the ability to escape.
well, right. Well, what I meant was
Yeah.
the one like some of them I was reading talk about like like the what he was talking about with fuck what was it duty to retreat, sorry. Like
Yeah.
I would like that doesn't exist, and it even states, this is just Wikipedia so I don't want to quote this too much like it's gospel, but the Wikipedia that I'm reading talks about like how duty to retreat is like voided when like in a workplace situation like that where you don't have the ability to retreat and stuff as well.
Can't get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
so I just
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just starting to like kind of turn these gears now that we're on this part, and so we're talking about stand your ground. And I have to make a quick correction on this video. So I was referring to when I was saying stand your ground, I was actually talking about defending your castle because I remember I was talking about your property.
Yeah.
Stand your ground does not apply with your property. Stand your ground involves you yourself in public.
It expands upon the castle doctrine. So
Yes,
your view
I
wherever
think
you
you
are.
said that, and I didn't catch
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
my fault. So, and even then, still, I'm still in support to stand your ground because,
Yeah.
but if, you know, as much as I want to say, you know, I'm in massive support to it, but the question there becomes, well, how do you prove that it was self defense, right? So you obviously want like maybe some level of a witness. I mean, police officers have it lucky because they have body cams to verify what they did was justified.
Yeah.
Not so much on our side, so.
Yeah.
I'm for it, but the
I mean,
question is,
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's the argument against stand your ground is I mean it's a ridiculous. I mean my personal is I tend to try I look at things in some ways legally. I try to understand the law because that's what necessarily applies to me, but I also look at things in a moral sense.
yeah.
So I guess another way to establish this question would essentially be, do you think it is moral to kill someone who is aggressing upon you, even if you have the capability to run away?
I think it
For
depends.
Go
For
ahead.
me, it depends on in what way they're aggressing towards you and like what weapon they
Yeah.
have in hand and what their
Yeah.
intent is and what your own capabilities are. Like, so here's the thing. Like, I'm a heavy set guy. I have, I do not have the ability to run for a very extended amount of time. So if some
Neither
fit
do me or Matt.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
right. So, if someone like I don't know, fit or like I don't know, muscular or whatever is coming at me, I'm probably going.
So we
to...
got a New Jersey
right,
Guido guy.
right. So,
So let's steer away from that right off the bat because no matter what, even with standard in its most extreme form,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to have objective fear for your life. So this has to be something where you are concerned about either being this person is going to kill you or do significant bodily harm to you or kidnap you or rape you. You
Well,
know, like
this is
my
simple.
those
thing.
are the criteria. So we'll get away from what physically you and I could do, that kind of thing. It's no matter what I am in this situation, the only way justified to begin with is if I am seriously concerned for my well-being,
Right.
because then no matter what, if you know if it's a 5-year-old running up to me and they're coming up to me and they're going, I want a hug, and I'm like,
Well,
you
no, no,
know,
no, no, no,
like
no,
like
no.
I'm either way, no
So
argument's gonna
you were
win.
misunderstanding what I was saying. I wasn't saying like surveying the threat to respond. I was surveying my ability to
Right.
retaliate or retreat based on who is coming at me. That's what I
Right.
meant.
Well,
Like
because the
I,
question,
I feel under
Yes,
threat
but
regardless. It's just that whether or not I can assess if I have the ability to retreat is what I'm saying.
well, but
yeah,
it has to be significant threat one way or another. So
not
I guess a better
necessarily.
way to do a better way to do this analogy. You have your wallet, your cell phone, um, and the keys to your car. You just got out of your car, and someone comes up and they go, "Give me your wallet, your cell phone, keys to your car. I'm taking all your shit." Are you justified in killing that person?
Did they?
I'll start with me. To me, absolutely. Like for me, you aggressed upon me. You're trying to take my shit. You remove a big personal property guy. Where if like listen, you don't have any rights if you don't have personal property rights. And if people are allowed to just take your property away from you, I'm not going to get that property back. Like a lot of people can try and sit there and say like they'll get it, like it's okay, you can file insurance, you can get it back, whatever, whatever. That's not the fucking case. Who've ever said that have never had an insurance claim. All right, like that's just not going to be the case. So for
Yeah.
me, I feel that if you are committing a crime against me, I am like I am justified to do just about whatever the fuck I want. Like you have initiated this fucking crime, and until you stop, turn around and run away,
Yeah.
I'm good. That's my take on it.
So my stance on that is like, I guess because I don't know that robbery and like murder equate to one another, but it depends on what they are robbing me with. If they don't have a weapon and they just tell me to give them all my shit, maybe I don't feel like murdering. But if they have a fucking gun and I have the ability to retaliate, then yeah, I absolutely think that should be the case because they are using the threat of taking my life to take my stuff. To me, it's not even about the things that they're taking. It's the fact that they are choosing to threaten my life with a weapon to
So
get my
you
shit.
so you feel that it has to be equivalent. That's just
For the
just so
yeah,
I can-
yeah, pretty much. I don't know how I can
as a
really argue
very
against that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be I am truly threatened with my life.
Right, because
Okay.
while I like my stuff and I like having my fucking wallet and my ID, like I don't necessarily think that my wallet is worth another person's life, especially in the digital age where I can just cancel a fucking credit card in 2 seconds. But I do think that if they choose to come at me with a weapon and threaten my life, that's a wholly different ballgame. And yeah, they could fucking get put down for all I care because they clearly
Okay.
have no sanctity for my life. So why should I have one for theirs?
Okay, Matt.
So I think the
Same
two you kind of have.
situation. Person showing up. Give me
Well,
your
I
wallet,
think
your keys, your car.
yeah. Well, I think you both have really interesting dynamics, and I feel like the idea between stand your ground law has a lot of. It's a very dynamic situation. If you look at it, almost like law enforcement views it, they're always dynamic. So let's just go under the pretext of your scenario where it's I'm getting out of my car, I have nothing, and somebody says, "Give me your wallet, your car, your keys. I'm taking it. It's all mine." In my opinion, that is it is threatening. He is looking. If I resist, I'm almost willing to bet that there's going to be an altercation which will inflict bodily harm, which already puts me in the green light to defend myself at that point. And I think there's enough data to even back up to to the point to say
Well, let's not
do
get into
armed
data because we don't have it in
no,
front
no.
of us. Let's
Well,
just
no,
go
I
on the
know,
moral.
I know. But I mean, well, okay. So I would even still say it was safe to assume most robberies to an extent, have a large level of a physical altercations or violence involved with them. You know, people don't go into robberies with the expectations to just have it handed to them. You know, these are people that, and a lot of these people have violent tendencies to that point. So you can't go with the assumption that this guy isn't going to hurt me. You know, if he's willing to walk up to a stranger and ask to take your belongings, there's clearly a threat. And I know if I resist, there's going to be a fight, and I'm just not big enough to take that kind of fight. So yeah, I think I would be 100% to defend myself and take his life. You know, I wouldn't worry about myself personally getting shot because I'd never robbed anybody. So, but that guy had there's that. To Jakai's point though, where he was talking about, this is where he made a good point with like the dynamic of standing your ground. So, and this is where, you know, he was saying if he has a knife, so to what point do we say can we retreat? Because in some instances, I think it's acceptable to retreat to get out of a bad situation. Because I'm not saying I'm pro taking somebody's life, but I'm pro defending myself by any means necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
So if somebody's approaching down the street and he has a knife or a baseball bat in his hand and it looks like he's going to cave my skull in or stab me with this knife, I'm going to try to get out of there. I'm going to try to run. And if he's going to chase me down, much like to Jakai's case or anybody else here, I'm not fit to run, man. So if you're going to corner me into a position where I've got to defend myself, this is where we rumble. So it's very dynamic. So I think both points were really good.
And I mean, even to the physical fitness of an individual to be able to run, like, so what now? Like, idea, everyone's like, okay, everybody, you better get up and be doing your fucking 5Ks every morning in case you get in fucking
Well, not
trouble.
only that,
Right.
you know, you also have to consider if you have a firearm on you and you're sprinting for your life and then decide, nope, I have to engage this target with my firearm and I'm exhausted, I'm now firing into the public. So you kind of, without and adrenaline pumping, you kind of can be more of a liability. So it becomes
that's why I didn't want to necessarily get into like rabbit trails or off that kind of like.
No,
I
know, but Jakai made a really good point on that
moment.
because I thought the knife was a
because
good
the
point.
more you expand into it, the more it just gets. We don't know. Like lots of things could be the case.
Well, and that's why like my generalization, I feel that if they have no weapon, I probably have the option to leave the situation, to get out, to retreat. Whereas if they have a weapon, you're threatening my life. Like you are threatening to kill me. At that point, like I feel enough in danger to retaliate. Whereas if you do not have a weapon, I feel that this could easily be me walking away with my life, and I think that it is worth walking away. That is really ultimately my argument. Without, like you said, getting into too many rabbit trails or whatever. It's basically, to me, weapon versus no weapon are different situations.
Well, and to your point too, the weapon is kind of the catalyst to determining where are we at with the situation of somebody. So if they have a weapon off the bat, then you can know, okay, this is going to probably turn into something violent. But if it's like, to Nigel's point, where it's like, well, if they're coming up to my car and they're just like saying, I'm taking everything that you own, well, you didn't get that kind of a heads up.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, this delves into a little bit more of the kind of thing where you're seeing a lot of rhetoric online as to there is, you know, you'll see people who, in my opinion, are ridiculous. Comes to the idea that there is no property worth a human life. You know, like no property you own is worth someone else's life, and I'm like, disagree with that. There's a lot of shit I own that I'll kill a motherfucker over.
I think it's easy for people to say that have everything, have them lose everything, and then see how they want to have that conversation. That's how I take it.
Yeah, I mean,
lose a good chunk of your life, especially if you don't have a lot. You know, like I only have one car, so if they took my car, I'm in a world of hurting.
For me, like that argument feels like such a fucking like misleading argument because I don't think any of my property is worth a human's life. I really don't. Like like to keep someone alive, I would give up every single thing I fucking own. To me, the problem isn't that my property is more important. It's that they think that they're right to my property and they're willing to put my life in danger for that. That is my problem. It has nothing to do with the fact that I value my property over them. It's that I value the fact that you think that it's yours and that you're willing to put me and my family or my friends' lives in danger for that property. That's the problem that I have. It's not about the value of the property. It's about the value of the choice you're making.
Yeah.
So to pick at that idea just a little bit, because you had a second caveat in there, about you've put my family at risk to subsequently get my property. So let's go a wild hypothetical. Some fucking Akira level telekinetic comes in and they can just gently lift all of you up and move you outside of your entire home and then lift all of the shit up and then remove it, everything you own out of your home and then just remove it, put it in a van and drive off with it. Um, still not ready to fucking pull the trigger on them because
No,
I'm just trying to find
no,
like
no,
the
no, no, no,
test
no.
limit
I'm
of
saying I
what
would
this is.
be because they, regardless of whether or not they are able to safely remove us and take everything, they are using
Hmm.
the threat of violence to take it regardless. They may be
Good
kind
point.
enough to take it without being
Yeah.
violent, but the alternative is becoming violent if I don't allow them to take it peacefully.
It's
Okay.
a
All right.
principle of the notion that you feel entitled to my shit.
And
Yeah.
you're willing to commit violence if I don't give it to you. It's
Correct.
not
You're
about
right.
the property itself, it's about your ideology of it is mine and I will enact violence if you do not give it to me. That
That's
is
true.
my
Yeah.
issue.
You're very right because
This is bullying 101.
even under your framework essentially of no property is worth a human's life, and it's like, well, if at any point in time I decide that no, my wedding ring or something like that, or my wife's wedding ring, because for me I'd be like, hey, listen, I bought this at fucking Walmart, you know, yes, yes and no, but I mean it's just a bad test case because yeah, if someone tried to take my wedding ring, like yeah, I'm looking to fuck a dude up. It's like that's the $5 thing that's gonna cost you your life, man. Like, sorry.
Well,
I
and,
think
Um,
and
it's more of a
but
principle
I
of the matter. I feel because
but I mean
it's
I
like
always I always wonder with that thought process though. I always wonder. I'm like I'm pretty sure. Like I don't think there are very many people where I could be like I'm pretty sure I could find that upper limit. Like I'm pretty sure I could find that upper limit with most people where it's like there's probably something that a person owns. And Jakaya, you've already kind of hit that where it's like, no. Because here's the thing: like, if you come to try and take my fucking shit, if I disagree with you, you're going to enact violence on me. Then at that point, I absolutely have the fuck capability to blow your ass away.
right.
But but there are people who sit there and make the argument that like no property, it's this blanket statement of no property is worth a human being's life. And I'm like, I'm positive that there is something that every person owns that they would be like, no. You're not going to take my Jewish grandmother's Holocaust fucking ring or watch that she hid in her ass for fucking 6 years while she was dodging the furnaces. Like, you ain't fucking getting that. I'll
Well,
die before I let you get that, you know?
the thing
Um,
is, like, it's not about the importance of the property for me. Like,
yeah.
I don't have anything that means that much to me. Like, I'm not a pretty materialistic person. Like, my favorite things in my house are like my $5 fucking posters and stupid shit that I could easily replace. Like, I don't care. I have nothing that I care about. The reason that I believe that you could die for trying to steal my shit is because you're threatening violence to get it, which means
Yeah.
that you have no care or sanctity for my life, which means why would I have any care or sanctity for yours? That is
well, not
my
only that, but you
argument.
didn't even you worked for your stuff, whereas someone's trying to take, in my opinion, this easy way to just get it. Just take it. Give me,
Yeah,
and I get.
I get that, but that's to me that's not even it. Like, and I do understand that argument. I'm not even saying that I think you're wrong, but from my own personal mindset, like I don't even care about that because, like, again, all of that is superficial to me. Like, I don't give a shit. I really don't. None of the stuff I have means that much to me. It's just the matter of you being willing to come in and threaten my life. Like, I cannot forgive that you can just take it and walk away and it be okay. Not because I care about the shit. It's because I care about the fact that you threatened my life. You
What the fuck
threatened
do you
my
think
life.
you are?
Like,
That's what
So,
your guy's
so,
trying to say.
so what I would add, and this will be the final thing before we actually get into the video. So even if it were something that was say given to you by your mom or by Nathan or something like that,
I
you,
really don't. My
yeah,
mom's ashes sit on my desk, and someone, like, if I never saw them again, like, I'd be like, oh, I don't have my mom's ashes, but I also probably wouldn't notice. Like, I
right,
really just right.
again, this is where, like I say, I'm trying to find that upper test limit
Right,
of
no,
like, where does
absolutely.
this go?
I'm just one
Yeah,
of those weird people. Like, my biggest attachment, like I said, is like my posters and maybe my computer. But my computer is only that attachment because it gives me entertainment. It's not that it has
yeah.
any, like, serious value. It's just that it's what I'd use for entertainment.
Oh, and I know relatives of yours that would absolutely kill a motherfucker over their computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scooter.
But I'm just not that guy. Like, truthfully, like, I feel like I've been at the bottom enough times to be okay with building from the bottom again. Not that I would love it, but to me, it's more of
Yeah.
a principle of you being willing to put my life at risk to take my shit. You don't care about my life, so I don't care about yours. That's the biggest thing to me. It's really a matter of principle. If you don't care about my life, I don't care about yours. Therefore, I'll fucking blow you away because you don't care about my life.
Understandable. Okay, so I think we clarified all of our kind of positions on stand your ground in general and things like that. So we'll go ahead and get into
Remind
the video. Go
remind
ahead.
me to send Jakaya a flag that says the alligator and it says "fuck around and find out."
That is very Chikaya. Chikaya could have that tattoo, and I'd be like, that's super appropriate.
Jakaya, I bought one on Amazon. I'll send it to you.
Y'all are something else. I can't do it.
All
I
right.
got one hanging up in my office.
Oh my god.
All right,
Alright.
so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. That little sound clip is what's gonna get us flagged.
Our main story tonight concerns guns. You know, big pew-pew sticks that go boom boom. Guns are everywhere in America, and I do mean everywhere.
How many guns do you think I can hide underneath a Hawaiian shirt? Of course.
All right, fun time now. I've already seen this video, so I know, but I want you guys to take a guess.
I don't
What?
remember. I even watched this video.
Number of guns he can hide under his Hawaiian shirt. Number of guns that this dude's about to pull out.
Under his Hawaiian shirt. Wait, hang on a second. So where did that one come off? His belt hip?
Yeah.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna guess 6.
I was gonna say
Matt
5.
goes with 6. 5 or 6. All right, let's see.
Of course, we got my Beretta
There's
Model
one.
85. Feels like
There's
a Car
two.
Arms CT45. Charter Arms. Undercover.
4.
38 Special.
Ooh.
Grandpa Dave's old Derringer.
5.
This is a Sky.
that a
CPX2.
Derringer?
Smith & Wesson 442. Oh, wait.
7.
One more. North American Arms.
He does.
Sidewinder.
What the hell is even that?
2290. Just in case you
That's
need
not a
something
gun. That's a
small.
novelty.
Wow. That is the second most horrifying thing you can find coming at you in a Hawaiian shirt, right after John Lasseter on National Hug Your Boss Day.
Does anyone else think that is the most horrifying thing? A guy with 8 pistols? I
No.
don't.
I mean,
I'm
here's
like,
the thing. You can have 8 pistols, but you only have 2 arms.
Bam.
And-
And honestly, all of his
And I'm still only concerned about 1 pistol.
like
Like the number of guns, as far as I'm concerned, really doesn't change a whole lot because it's like
what kills me about this idiot
you're
JV
gonna
Oliver is
shoot
that
me
he's
with all.
right. This ding dong here, he's trying to portray that there's one American with 8 guns on his person is what the national average for people. It's like, look, this guy did it obviously for a video, and it's not even practical. And every single one of those guns, I guarantee, is a small caliber. So this guy is just like he's just misleading this. It's like, whoa, look at all those
Yeah.
guns. Bitch, 2 of
Yeah.
those were goddamn novelties. I shot at the very best a 22.
Yeah. A couple of those were guns that'd be like, yeah, I mag dumped on the guy and he fucking walked away. Like he walked himself to the hospital and went, I think I got shot. Like
He'd
a
have had
bunch.
more effectiveness with a CO2 powered BB gun.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, no, obviously John Oliver doesn't know a ton about
Oh, is
firearms.
it John Oliver? I'm sorry, I called him
Well,
Jamie.
and the other thing is like anyone who grew up in our generation, like I'm sure you guys saw the same videos on like YouTube back when YouTube was the wild fucking west of like fucking like trip pant kids who'd have like fucking 4 shotguns and like all sorts of shit where they'd have these videos where it's like how many guns can I put on me? And so I look at this one, I'm like, that's tame as fuck, dude. Like I've seen dudes
Oh,
with
yeah.
fucking double barrel shotguns out their fucking pants. Like,
I was inspired. I wish I could have like a sawed-off shotgun with the stock cut, so I could put a leg holster for a sawed-off shotgun. I think that'd just be the greatest thing.
Oh my God.
no one would fuck with it. Like someone walking around, I personally my idea of like open carry is I'm like really mixed about it because there's like part of me that's like, well, if you're open carry, if we have open carry laws and someone's walking around with a gun, well, you know what's up. If you don't like the person having the gun, it's easy to avoid them. It's kind of fucking obvious. And if you're someone who likes guns or doesn't care about guns, it doesn't bother you.
Right.
So it's like really out and fucking open. Now there is a problem with that when it comes to things like all of a sudden, listen, you open carry all the time, even if it's legal. Prepare to get stopped by the police a lot more fucking often. Because everywhere you go, the police are gonna be like, "Hey man, what you doing?"
Yeah.
Whereas concealed carry is like you apply for the license and do everything like that. But then if you're someone who really doesn't like guns, like it's literally like, to me, the whole stance against like open carry is like, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist.
I mean, it is like that
4.
though, actually, because like, so working in a gas station, like I had an employee once, like a dude came in with a gun on his hip, and they were fucking freaking out and basically had an anxiety attack, and it was like, are you fucking retarded? Like, this is just a John with a fucking pistol. Like, it's fine.
Yep.
Like, what do you think he's gonna just start fucking shooting up people? It's a goddamn pistol on his hip. Shut up. You're fine.
Killing the Wild West. Yahoo!
Right.
I'll
Like,
give you a pro tip, gas station employee. When they come in to rob the place, it's not on their hip.
right. Like, does
They're
like,
Give me all your shit.
what does everyone
All
think
right.
that it's fucking Yosemite Sam in here, and they're just gonna pull out their fucking gun and just start firing it off? Like,
No, yeah. Don't get
Exactly.
him to you. You better hope he doesn't win that fucking $30 scratch off, because you're gonna
Right.
have 8 holes in the fucking ceiling. Anyway.
Day. Although I will say, the reveal of the Thumbelina-sized gun in his Tommy Bahama pocket was an M. Night Shyamalan-worthy twist. Well done, Tiny Gun. You are both superfluous and surprising. But this story isn't so much about guns themselves as it is about one particular law that significantly expanded how they're used. I'm talking about stand your ground laws. 30 states currently have them, and while they were initially pitched as a law and order measure to protect people forced to make difficult decisions in impossible life or death situations, in practice, they can be invoked in incidents that really seem like they didn't need to turn deadly.
The man who shot and killed a father of 4 at a Florissant bar is free tonight. So far, the gunman's not facing charges for the shooting at Show Me's Bar and Grill on Wednesday afternoon. The St. Louis County prosecutor says he needs more time to decide whether he'll prosecute the gunman. That's because Missouri's Stand Your Ground law is complicated. Scott Berry was killed when an argument over how heavy a dog could weigh became physical.
Holy sh!
So he's obviously gonna like go, what the fuck? But did anyone else catch like what was really like left out of that?
I don't know
So
about
there's
what's left
kind of-
out, but they added a lot of information that's irrelevant. Like, who cares what they were arguing over? It got physical. Your life is now under threat. Like,
Exactly. like, and I mean, maybe I didn't look up this fucking case in particular or something like that. But I mean, like, I could think of a lot of situations where like people argue about something really fucking stupid, and then all of a sudden it fucking ratchets up to fucking 11 like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Like it doesn't matter what they were arguing over. Like, that's completely irrelevant. The fact that someone got physical with you over the argument and is putting your life in danger, like, that's the part that matters. Now, I don't know what the fight was about. Like,
anyone ever gotten or had gotten physical with a loved one over a really dumb fucking argument when you look back?
Absolutely.
Please,
Dan and I never argue about anything stupid, okay?
Absolutely. What about your brother? Did you ever get fucking physical with your brother? Over like, no, it's my turn on the Xbox. Fuck, it is.
My brother, listen, when my
I'm
brother
sorry,
and I
Kuma.
were very young, we got into an argument over what curtains to hang up. And I took a curtain rod from him and like swung it, and he had like 30 stitches in his leg from it because I cut him with a curtain rod.
What did your two brothers get into the argument about to begin with when your one brother stabbed your other brother?
Oh God, I don't remember. Listen,
I guarantee you it was something fucking stupid.
we can go all day talking about brother stories because the other one, like, my family talks about all the time. Because like when I was younger, my anger was not well in check. I admit that. And Jared said something that pissed me off. And I was sitting in a chair, and I just came up off the chair and hit him so hard in the face, like smacked him, that he stumbled back. And then I jumped on top of him, and I just grabbed him by the face with my palm and just started slamming his head into the fucking floor. Like, I don't even remember what he said, but all he did was say something to me, and for some reason it triggered me, and I got up ready to fucking brawl.
Dude, I
He went
remember
all
being at
fucking
your
Christmas
place.
story on him.
Oh
Dude,
my
I
god.
remember being at your place and like I'd be eating cereal or something like that, and then like two of your family members get in an argument, and I'd just be like, "Time to stand up and walk to a door." It's just get out of the blast radius. That's
I
all you
find
gotta
it
do.
disconcerting that like it became this like, yeah, man, I'm just gonna go over here, get out of the way, no big deal.
Well, I mean,
I've had
like
friends like
again,
that too,
yeah.
man. It's just how you roll, and you don't ever judge it. You just do like, oh, that's okay, no worries, no, it's all right.
I'm not getting into the family fight. First of all, I was consistently about half the size of all of your family members. So,
That's true, and
so
that was
I'm
back before you were a truly proficient fighter too.
yeah, that's back when I was like 14, and so I'm just like, listen, I'm not getting in between this. This is like this is be like, oh, I saw two grizzly bears fighting one another, and I thought, you know what, I should get in between and break that up. It's like,
Yeah, right.
said the last thing that man said before dying a horrible death. like, nah, man, have that shit out. And then I also had like 30 first cousins, so it's like we got into fights all the time, and that was like it was like prison rules. It was like, nah, man, they scrapping.
Yeah, that's what it was for us. Like, whenever I tell people, like, they're like, have you been in a fight? And I'm like, yeah, like once, other than, unless you include, like, my family. And they're like, those aren't real fights. I'm like, you weren't in my family. We tried to kill each other. Like,
Yeah. Again,
I think you guys are being a little
your
unfair.
one brother stabbed your other brother with a knife.
well, and again, like,
Jesus.
again, so I've never been a proficient fighter. So me and my older brother Jared, we were the two that fought the most, like with me anyways. Like it basically went in twos. Me and Jared fought a lot, Scooter and Cody fought a lot, and the two girls fought a lot. So Jared and I got into a fight one time. I'm on the phone talking to somebody, and we get into a fight. I start hitting him with the phone, right? The phone breaks in my hand. So I pick up a fan by the cord, and I just whip it at him while the fan breaks. So I pick up a chair, and I just start fucking slamming it on him. Like, it was
I'm
just...
telling you guys should have all gotten into pro wrestling. Like,
I was
were
about
really-
to ask, like, did they watch WWF at the time? Because
it was really just fucking backyard fucking rules, because we were just like, we were this angry group of fucking teenagers and kids that just like needed to get our fucking frustration out, and like that's what it was.
Really, the thing was that Jakaya's mom had 4 boys that were all within like 6 years of one another.
Yeah,
So-
we basically were like, Jared and I are a year apart, then Scooter was like a year and a half, and it just trickled down a little bit further for each kid.
Yeah, from the youngest male to the oldest male, it's like a 6-year time difference. So
Yeah.
they're all just like, they're all right at that fuck you up stage at the same time.
Oh, my
Yep.
older brother's got 6 years on me too. I totally know what that's like. But I was the middle, so I had a younger, and then of course an older. So me and my older brother would get into altercations a lot. But that was they got nasty, but we didn't pull knives.
So your sibling beatings would just go downhill. It would be older brother beats
They
up
actually
Matt,
really
Matt
did.
and beats up younger.
I would. In fact, we had a joke with my.
I can't
my
kick
younger
his
brother,
ass. I'll
Wesley.
fuck you up.
Yeah, because like, well, when I was just coming like in the beginning of middle school, my brother was in high school. It's like, what are you gonna do? Pick a fight with this kid? You're an idiot. So where's my little brother at? And the joke would be like, smack Wesley upside the head, and then we would action because he would delay. You'd hit him, and he would. So we would like smack, action, and then he would cry. So we were really, really cruel as kids.
Oh
so
my God.
in fact, we still talk about this shit. It's so fucked, but.
All right, let's
Before
get back to
before
this
we
video.
Well, I have to
Shit.
point out, you guys
Not
are being
only is
unfair
that
with
a
siblings
ma-
because you're being unfair with siblings because you have to remember we have a president who has family. You have 2 brothers, Hunter Biden and his brother. They were okay with sharing a significant other, and they didn't get into any physical altercation. So, I mean, I guess not all things are bad.
I mean, listen, I love my
Sharing is
siblings. We
caring.
just fought a lot.
Sharing is 100% caring, and they also don't ignore it. And the president sniffs kids.
Well, whatever.
It's definitely strange.
Massive open. It's a pointless argument. Everyone knows dogs come in a wide array of sizes, from pocket-sized sweeties to slender kings, to dense boys, to droopy boys, to big honking boys, to standard. That's just veterinary science. Standing ground laws gained notoriety nearly a decade ago when police claimed that Florida's law kept them from initially arresting George Zimmerman after he shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. More recently, they've been floated as a potential defense for the killers of Ahmaud Arbery. And those
Remember, they
are
said
just two
initially
devastating
they did
examples
eventually
of
arrest
many.
George Zimmerman.
Don't worry, we're not going to show you the far too plentiful footage of people getting shot in public places tonight. Frankly, we're just one senseless murder away from HBO Max putting this show in the...
And again, in the Ahmaud Arbery case, they did arrest both those guys, and it's very likely both of them are going to go to prison.
endless parade of human misery category alongside Chernobyl and Entourage. But given the prevalence of stand your ground laws and the racial disparities in who they do and crucially don't protect, we thought tonight it'd be worth taking a look at them. And let's start with why exactly stand your ground laws were created. Because before they came along, most states already had self-defense laws on the books that traditionally included an element known as a duty to retreat, meaning you couldn't resort to using deadly force in a confrontation if you could safely avoid or de-escalate it. Now, in many states, an exception to this rule was the so-called castle doctrine, a legal theory arguing that your home is your castle and there you can use deadly force much more broadly to protect yourself against intruders. The key thing stand your ground laws did was remove that duty to retreat from public places, basically extending the castle doctrine to anywhere you have a legal right to be. If you have a reasonable fear someone might hurt you, you have just as much right to shoot them in the street as you would if they were coming through the window of your house. And this...
Any disagree? I mean, we kind of already touched on this, but...
He's a fucking idiot.
I mean, he just described it as, like, your life threatened the same on the street as coming through your window. Like, why is that a problem? Your life is threatened.
Well,
he used that as a precursor.
Harm.
Well, harm.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But he used that as a precursor, so, like, I don't understand the issue.
This guy's never been in a fight before, clearly, and he's never been punched in the nose, because I wish somebody would so he could, you know, maybe see what it means to feel fucking threatened.
Yeah. So, okay. No.
change was largely thanks to the advocacy of one woman with a pretty compelling story.
Marion Hammer says she was walking to her car after a long day at the office when she was accosted by a car full of men. But she had a surprise for them.
I drew the gun up through the headlights of the car.
Terrible haircut.
And I aimed at the driver. And somebody in the car screamed, "The bitch got a gun."
The bitch got a gun. I honestly did not expect to hear that come out of that woman's mouth. Help yourself to some hard candies in the ceramic pig? Absolutely. Take off your boots so you don't track anything on the wall-to-wall carpeting? Of course. But a curse word? In the daylight? Not in 10,000 contractions of the universe.
I'm gonna start.
Did he just stereotype an old fucking lady?
Well, he did, but at the same time, like, I would really love to see the argument against stand your ground law for that situation.
Like, I don't understand if he is arguing with it. I feel like this is him saying that this is one of the situations where it made sense, right?
That's what I thought too, and then he started stereotyping the old lady.
He said it's compelling, but he initially stated that stand your ground laws were a problem.
Right.
And so now you're getting, he's like, so we'll delve into this, and here's one of the most compelling stories as to why stand your ground is a thing. Now, we know that he believes stand your ground is a problem, but he played this, and I'll give John Oliver good faith, to try and show the other side of the story. But I mean, this is a 19-minute fucking video, and we're not even 5 minutes in. So I'm really, like, curious to see, like, okay, like,
right.
In that situation there, like, she's getting accosted by a bunch of guys in a car. She's an elderly fucking woman. She drew a gun, and they went, "Oh fuck, bitch got a gun," and then they drove off. So I mean, I'm like,
sounds like she did good. She probably felt threatened. She didn't shoot nobody, but she definitely got him out of their way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, sounds like stand your ground makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the important part concerns what she claims a police chief said to her after she told her story publicly.
The police chief told me, well, in that situation, if you'd called the police, we'd have arrested you because you were the only one who employed the use of deadly force. And that made me angry.
And that argument is the absolute core of the case for stand your ground laws, that Marion Hammer could have been arrested for simply defending herself. Now, she wasn't, of course. That didn't happen, but someone said that she might have been, and that made her angry. But a few things there, because while everything about Marion Hammer seems like a sweet, everyday grandmother, right down to this feline glamour shot of her posted on a cat breeder's website, you should know she's also one of the country's most powerful gun lobbyists and a former president of the NRA. She has personally helped push through dozens of gun laws in Florida alone, including a 1987 bill allowing conceal and carry permits, a law then duplicated in some form in almost every state, leading to more than 16 million Americans currently having licenses to carry concealed handguns. So, that Margaritaville arsenal that you saw earlier, you have this Dana Carvey character to thank for that situation.
What's the issue with that?
Like, he's just ranting about why he hates guns. Like, I don't get it. She's like, yeah, in fact, that's like the high risk, high reward for carrying a firearm. And if you're going to use the stand your ground law, like we talked earlier, if you are going to kill somebody defending yourself, you better have some type of proof that you fucking were justified in that killing, because that comes with the risk. Because when the police show up, they do not know what happened. They have you with a gun and a dead body, and they want to know what the fuck just happened.
Odds are you will absolutely be arrested.
Yeah, of course. So
you'll
that comes with the risk.
They'll be like, no. You get, like, drop the fucking firearm.
Yeah.
Put your hands behind your goddamn back, and you sit in the car until we tell you otherwise.
And the fact that fucking Jamie Numbnuts over here was like, well, the police were going to arrest her. You know, the police chief said, well, we would arrest you if we had showed up on scene with your gun out. Well, yeah, cops would typically do that if you have a deadly weapon when the police show up. They have no fucking idea what's going on. They do not take information at face fucking value.
Truthfully, it's their job to arrest her and then decide what to do after that. While that might be inconvenient for her, it's good that is their law. That way they can assess the situation as a whole and then go from there.
It keeps everybody safe. You're
right. The whole reason she wasn't arrested or anything is because she didn't fire the gun.
Right.
She pulled the gun, brandished the gun.
No, right. But
then when she brought it up later about that situation, it was like, well, if we had shown up, we'd have arrested you. And then I don't know, I felt like there was some slight rhetorical game that was made there where it's like, this woman used to be the president of the NRA and is a gun lobbyist. And it's like, okay.
He's a liberal piece of shit who hates guns. That's why he said that.
Well,
she runs the NRA.
Well, but I mean, like, let's look at the rhetorical aspect of that statement. So, by this logic, is it supposed to be that if you are an NRA lobbyist, then you should not be? I mean, like, the situation still didn't change anything. Like, what
but he's pushing a narrative.
Is, but what her profession was, and we don't even know if that was before or after. Maybe she had this situation, went, you know what, I've joined the NRA, and you know what, I'm going to support the fuck out of the NRA. You know, and it's like, okay.
This is very true, too.
But let's even say she was the active president of the NRA at that fucking point in time. What does that change about the situation that she talked about?
Nothing.
Right, well,
Nothing
the reality, like, I don't know, she defended herself. That's the only part that matters. Like, that's the only part of the argument that matters.
And the only other context that Jamie Oliver brings up or John Oliver, when he says, you know, she got mad. You know, if the police had showed up with her gun drawn, she would have been arrested, and that made me mad. Well, as a gun owner, I'd be a little pissed off too if I got arrested. But being arrested doesn't mean you're getting charged with anything. They just would detain you. So it's a massive inconvenience. You explain to the officers what you did. Okay, cool. I committed no crimes. Bye.
Maybe. Or maybe they do sit there and they charge you with a fucking felony assault with a weapon, because that would be what that is.
Brandishing a firearm is still considered assault with a weapon?
Gun and so yes, assault, I can do if I threaten. That can be an assault charge. If I assault you, if I threaten your life with a fucking weapon, that's a felony assault with a weapon. It's not battery. Is when I actually, like, if my fist is on the way to you, it's assault. Once my fist makes contact with you, that's battery. So, yeah.
Huh.
But anyway, we'll continue.
Situation. It's not entirely relevant. You should know Hammer's advocacy wasn't limited just to guns. She also successfully killed a petition from 10,000 school children to change the Florida state bird to the scrub jay, a bird so friendly it apparently eats peanuts out of your hand. Now, she objected because, in her words, begging for food isn't sweet, it's lazy and it's a welfare mentality, and they eat the eggs of other birds, that's robbery and murder. I don't think scrub jays can even sing. And okay, Slow
This is
down
called
there,
poisoning
Marion.
the well.
Set aside lazy welfare mentality and robbery and murder, which is a lot to put on a bird. Scrub jays can't sing? You might want to tell that to the scrub jay, Marion. See? That's fine. Is it great? No, it's not great. It's fine. It's perfectly
I'm glad
fine.
he said it,
Sure,
so I don't
the
know.
bird is no Mariah, but it's also no Roseanne. If that
Yeah,
bird
so
is
singing
anyone,
is objective
it's
and he's an
Fergie.
idiot.
You heard me. The scrub jay is Fergie. Tweet it, talk it, put it in your pocket. I've made a flimsy take and I'm proud of it. The point is, Marion Hammer played a big part in passing one of the country's first stand your ground laws in Florida.
At least he admits
And
it was a
the
really flimsy
passage of
take.
that bill was immensely useful to the NRA because
Well,
it
yeah,
became
part
a
of his
model
shtick
for laws
is
that they
being
could then
silly.
push around the country. Wayne LaPierre openly said at the time that
Yeah, but
Florida was the first step of a
Yeah, but
That's the
still,
Daily Night
that's
Show.
Still, yeah, that's still poisoning the well. So it's like,
Yeah,
here are all of
absolutely.
her arguments, and here's me doing a character assassination so that I'm prepping your brain to understand that she's actually bad.
Right, absolutely.
Well, he's attempting to, but the problem is this is a tough narrative to push because it's a piss poor example.
Well, but that's not true. That would absolutely work on plenty of people.
Lots of people.
Absolutely.
Lots of people. We'll go see how many fucking views and likes this video has, and I guarantee you it'll be a fucking lot.
multi-state strategy, and they were going to use the tailwind to move from state legislature to state legislature, and they did. Just 6 years later, stand your ground laws had passed in 22 states, and while following the killing of Trayvon Martin, they became increasingly controversial, states did not stop passing the laws, they just slightly slowed down. And Dennis Baxley, one of the state representatives who helped draft Florida's bill, was adamant that it should not be rolled back.
We should stand beside law-abiding citizens. They should not be treated as a criminal. They're doing something positive, which is stopping a violent act from occurring. There are going to be times with close calls near the foul line. Is it in or is it out? Who's the assailant and who's the victim?
Yeah, there are going to be some close calls. Is it in or is it out? Is it right or is it wrong? Is it self-defense or is it a murder provoked by debate about how much a dog can weigh that turned physical? Who can say? Not that guy.
I fucking
And
hate
that
this guy.
is
He's
a little
fucking
bit of the
pissing
point
me
here.
off.
The way most states' stand your ground laws are constructed, they can make determining questions of guilt incredibly difficult because it all comes down to perceived fear, whether you legitimately saw someone as a threat, and that is definitionally subjective. What I am afraid of, snakes, clowns.
They have
knowing
a
the
very
law.
specific. Yeah, it's a very specific thing. It says in the laws. It says objective fear. It's not
this
subjective
jackass, yeah, this jackass thinks that people go around that do the stand your ground laws think that they can just like do whatever the fuck they want. A lot of gun owners go, all right, what are my laws? What are the rules of engagement? And what can I do? That's
this
it.
is the part of the video that is like a super nuclear hot take because he's about to make like the equivocation at like if I'm deathly terrified of like clowns, then if I see a clown, by the logic of the stand your ground law, I can just shoot the clown, and that's absolutely untrue. Like you will fucking go to prison for murder if you do that.
Until
Yeah.
Jesus Christ might not be what you are. And it's made even harder by the fact that often the only other person who knows what happened in the incident is now dead. And citing stand your ground as a legal defense has been extremely successful. In Florida alone, as of 2012, nearly 70% of people who claimed it as a defense had gone free. And
crime's probably
for
gone
these
down
laws will
even
tell you-
greater.
Who claim self-defense have gone free. That phrasing alone is stupid as fuck. So, once an investigation comes around, in a shooting, the person claims self-defense, 70% of the time we've gone free. Now, if we assume that there was any level of an investigation that occurred, that means the investigator went, yeah, we don't think there was a crime
Well,
committed.
he presumes there was no fucking investigation, and this is why he's like, well, they all went free.
I don't think it's that. I think his argument is that like not that I think that he's necessarily making a good argument, but the point is that like of course they said they were innocent. They were the only one alive. That's the argument that he's making. Regardless,
that's something he said prior to prime you for the next argument. He didn't.
Right.
There was no actual equivocation to that. He then just brought up an article that said 70% of people who claim self-defense in a shooting go free. Now he made the statement prior to going, the other person is dead. That statement did not say anything. That the next article that he brought up, the headline that he pulled up, did not say that they had died. It just said 70% of the shootings that occur where someone claims self-defense in the shooting go free. If anyone's investigated that, we don't know if all of the other people fucking died. In fact, a lot of times people get fucking shot and live. Like,
I was gonna say, you'd be surprised how many bullets a body can take before it dies. I have been absolutely amazed as to how many bullets the human body can take before it expires. Yeah. And I've seen enough to know where the off button looks like on a body. I was telling Dana this last night because there was a shooting breakdown we saw where I was like, Dana, you should see what an off button looks like when someone gets shot, because like in police videos, you'll see officers put like 13 rounds in a guy, drugs or not. Adrenaline is the key. And I've seen officers get shot and they've just like picked back up, like, and you're like, how the fuck are you doing that getting shot? But you see a guy get tagged in the head.
As long as your brain or your fucking heart hasn't stopped, and you'd be amazed how long you can keep fucking going.
Yeah, I said, Danny, you ever seen a UFC or an MMA fight where somebody gets clocked in the fucking head so hard that they stiffen up and just drop like a sack of potatoes? She's like, yeah. I go, that's literally what the off button looks like when someone gets tagged.
Yeah.
They just
he made this argument of going like, the other person has died, and then so he primes you and then leads you to the next thing about the 70% self-defense case thing. And it's like, those two things are not the same. I mean, that is like as close to propaganda, in my opinion, as you can get. So if we go on the assumption that there was any level of investigation, the investigators went, yeah, this was a self-defense shooting. This was righteous. We're not. And that's go free in what context? Go free in the sense that they went to fucking court and a jury found them fucking not guilty? Because I'll tell you that right now, motherfucker, court's expensive as shit, especially if you're going for some shit like that, because you asked it better have a good fucking lawyer, or it don't matter. You're going to do fucking 10 to 20 and fucking, Leavenworth. Like, you're fucked. So, I mean, like, go free in what context? That to me is just such a nuclear fucking hot take and such a horrible false equivalency that I can't see anything that John Oliver says as like, yeah, no, I'll totally believe what you're fucking saying now. Like, it's ridiculous.
100%.
Anyone else have anything else to say?
Not on this.
I mean, I think you're pretty much on the nose.
That's a good. Before their introduction, good people were getting sent to jail all of the time simply for defending themselves. But they never had much in the way of actual evidence for that, beyond hypotheticals like Marion Hammer's story about how someone said she could have gone to jail, but crucially, she didn't. So stand your ground laws weren't really fixing a problem that needed solving, and the dangers they posed were pretty obvious to some from the start. When
Clearly,
Georgia
he doesn't
was debating a stand your ground law in 2006, a local station asked people in the streets what they thought, and watch as their third interviewee realises something that the first two don't.
I think it's a lower crime myself, because a person's going to think twice about running up on a citizen if he thinks that citizen's armed.
If you feel your life's in danger, I think it's a good law.
I think it's going to get a lot of people hurt.
Why is that?
Well, because when you walk up to me in the parking lot, I didn't know who you were, and by this law, if I felt that you threatened me, I could have just shot you right now.
That's not true.
That's not right.
No, that's not how it fucking works, you dumb sack of dog shit.
Maybe we shouldn't have listened to the man in the Pride of the South hat, that, by the way, features a portrait of Robert E. Lee over a Confederate flag. That hat alone should have immediately disqualified anything he said. It's like if Anthony Fauci wore this bucket hat that says Daddy in the Shrek font. If he did, you'd be duty-bound to ignore anything that he said. Because the fact is, we now
Fauci's
know
a fucking idiot.
Not only do stand your ground laws not deter crime, they may actually increase violence. In stand your ground states, homicides overall have increased nearly 11% since the law's enactment, whereas in states without those laws, the homicide rate went down by just over 2%. In fact, another study found such laws translate into an additional 600 homicides per year. And if you're thinking, well, come on, you can't draw a straight line between these specific laws and people's actions. In some cases, you very much
I would
can.
Certainly like
including
to
one
see
of the very first stand your ground cases in Texas.
How many crimes are committed in those
Joe
states, not
Hall,
homicides?
who called 911 to report a burglary happening during the day at his next-door neighbor's house.
I've got a shotgun, Do you want me to stop them?
Nope, don't do that. Ain't no property worth shooting somebody over, okay?
Joe Horn sounds clearly upset.
I'm not going to let them get away with it. I can't take a chance on getting killed over this, okay?
No.
I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot.
But the 911 dispatcher warns Horn to stay inside at least a dozen separate times.
I've got officers coming out there. I don't want you to go outside that house.
Then Horn, sounding angrier by the moment, cites the new Texas law.
That I have a right to protect myself too, sir, and
Yes,
you understand that.
Yes,
and the laws have been changed in this country since September the 1st, and you know it and I know it.
Yeah, Joe Horn knew what the law said, and despite the dispatcher warning him not to go outside 14 times, he did just that and killed 2 people, with autopsy reports later showing that both men appeared to have been shot in the back. He was explicitly told property is not worth shooting people over, which is
The echo's me.
So I don't know. This does not fall under stand your ground. The dude was not robbing his house. He went out and shot someone else robbing a different house.
Life.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
The thing that he's going to bring up is that it's going to be like, this is what happened. And yeah, I would agree. Like this guy really went out of his fucking way. We could get into a potential little debate as to whether or not we think it's good in a society for your neighbors to protect not only their valuables but your valuables as well, kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, like that I would say probably doesn't fall under stand your ground.
Well,
think
and I don't.
You went after him, buddy.
Well,
but what happened in this case is a jury actually acquitted him.
Why?
A jury. I don't.
Well,
know. I mean, juries are fickle things. It could have even been to the extent of, you find a jury of your peers and they sat there and looked at it and like, we don't fucking like thieves. That could have.
I was gonna say. So let's say, as much as I would agree that, in a nutshell, you should mind your fucking business. I think the guy was right by calling the police. I think he was in the great. Right.
Well,
so
no one would disagree with that,
No.
yeah.
Full disclosure, I don't. It's not about minding your own business. Homie definitely should get involved and call the police. Like I don't.
Yeah,
again,
that's what I mean.
To me, these things are about whether or not someone's life is in danger. And again,
exactly.
I agree with the argument that no property is worth shooting someone over. Like, and I know that you guys don't necessarily agree, and that's okay. I do not agree that property is worth shooting someone over. I just simply don't. If there is no one's life in danger, let the fucking cops handle it. Let them deal with it. Leave it alone. I don't think this guy should have gotten away with shooting 2 people in the fucking back who had absolutely no threat to him whatsoever. He's quoting in this phone call that his life is in danger when there is absolutely no world in which his fucking life is in danger.
That is the difference between the objective and subjective.
Right.
Well, we also don't know exactly what this guy was saying. We have a phone conversation between him and dispatcher saying, "Well, my life is threatened," and then we don't know to what extent.
But we can make a very good inference because he says they're robbing his neighbors. He has the time to have a calm tone and talk to this officer. Hey, they're robbing my next door neighbor.
9 minutes.
Not a 9-minute conversation. Like, there's no world with just the information that I have. I haven't read this whole case, but just the information I have, a 9-minute fucking conversation, dude's life is not in danger. If you got 9 minutes for your life to be in danger from a burglar, it's not really in danger.
I get it. Yeah.
And he even alluded to, like, at the end where he was like, so you and I both know that the laws have changed in our country, and Ron Oliver's going to make the claim that it's specifically stand your ground, because I'm certain, because this is in there, that his defense attorney used stand your ground as one of the arguments to try and not get him sent to jail, because that's what the lawyer's going to do. And that a jury acquitted him. So, like I look at this and I go, from what I see here, I don't agree. I mean, this guy, I think the people, I mean, like, my personal thing is, like, the 2 people who are robbing that neighbor's house. Like, if I saw a video of those 2 guys robbing the neighbor's house and then, like, a dump truck didn't see them and fucking ran them both over, I'd be like, they got what they deserved. you know?
Right.
But that guy definitely acted in what I would consider like a vigilante kind of way, and this is definitely a case where I wouldn't say stand your ground necessarily applies, but at the same time, the jury found him not guilty. So
obviously, and certainly not your neighbor's
and I kind
property.
of agree with you there on that.
If I
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, nothing we can do.
Well,
yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can do. It's like if a jury finds you not guilty, well then.
Well,
hey, so
you know
that
right,
sucks.
Right.
Well,
I don't want him in my neighborhood.
I also go on. No, go ahead. You were talking first. I'm sorry.
So the quick point that I was going to make was that I think I agree. It's a piss poor example of stand your ground. But if the guy that was being robbed came up with a shotgun in his home and blasted the two guys, then it would be just. So I could see how this guy was acquitted, but I just wanted to put it like I do think it was a piss poor use of stand your ground.
And I also want to clarify that even though I do think that this fucking dude should have been put in jail for basically ever for murdering two people that were no threat to him whatsoever, I do not think that this is a good argument for John Oliver because this guy's just a fucking moron that tried to play a law in his favor. Like, I just
that's
don't.
John Oliver's whole point. Is that you'll get people who go and intentionally commit murders and then
manipulate the law.
Is that not the case for every law that exists, period, ever? There are people that try to manipulate every law ever.
Yeah.
Democrats don't do that. Come on now.
You're wrong. Like, you're not wrong. But that is John Oliver's point.
In fact, we have an entire course of people in defense and prosecuting attorneys that's their job. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, weird. It's almost like they train for years in order to manipulate those laws to either put people or keep people out of prison.
Right.
Strange.
That's a whole other conversation.
They paid a lot of fucking money to do it too.
Not until 2 to save my PS5. I would move tomorrow. I know they're hard to get your hands on, but Jesus Christ, calm down. I don't want your blood console.
I'll take it.
Thanks to Texas's new stand your ground laws, Joe Horn was never arrested, and ultimately, a grand jury declined to ever charge him with a crime. And not only was Horn spared any consequences, he was later celebrated as a hero.
You had 911 on, and you said, I'm going to go stop them. You got to get here. I'm going to stop them. They said, no, don't go out. You stopped them. They came towards you. You shot them.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And
okay, set aside.
So I guess since he really hit the moral argument, like he went straight for the moral thing, and clearly we see that there's some disagreement morally. Do we think it is a morally good thing for neighbors to potentially protect each other's property with potentially deadly force? Do we think that is a good thing, a bad thing?
I think close-knit communities is a great thing. In fact, that's part of the reason. I think that's part of what makes communities safe. I think that's part of what makes, in the scheme of even like counties, safe to an extent. Of course, there's more dynamics to this. Neighborhood. We have neighborhood watches. There's signs for neighborhood watch. So I think it kind of falls under the same junction. So I think it's. If we look at the case with this guy who had killed the two robbers, let's look more into the case. What happened? What was when because he said, so you approached the two robbers and you shot them. Yes. Okay. So how did that altercation turn out? Right. So what happened? What was done? Because did he bait them to make his life feel threatened? Perhaps. Mm-hmm. But maybe those guys should have known if he came up with a shotgun to not fucking go, I'll stab you, old man. Like, okay.
Well, they didn't.
They didn't. He just walked up and shot them.
Yeah, they ran.
This guy is not a stand your ground good guy. Like your argument doesn't work. This guy is a murderer.
Yeah.
Like he's a murderer.
Yeah. In that situation. But I mean that's still off the whole thing. Like, do we think that it's morally good for you to protect your property potentially with deadly force if need be? Do we think that is? Do we think that is a moral good? Would we appreciate living in a neighborhood that would? Oh man, anybody tries to break your shit,
but there's limitations to your involvement too, right? Because you just don't get to have the same laws because again, right? it's your life. You can't just, especially when you kind of like put it like So this guy injected his
Let's
life
get away
now.
from this guy. Let's get away from
Well,
this guy
right.
and just say
So-
on a
so-
general, do you want your neighbors that live next to you to be willing to attack someone potentially with deadly force if they are robbing your home?
Yeah.
Do we think that is a good thing to have? Do we think that is a
Yeah.
moral good for a community?
Yeah, why not? Because consequences come after.
So Matt says, but Matt's Jakaya.
No, I mean, mine is absolutely not. Like, I don't think that property is worth a life. But I do think that, like, Nigel, if you and I were neighbors and you knew, like, and I was home or something and someone was breaking into my house, yeah, Nigel, blow them the fuck away. Because, again, then my life is in danger.
Gotcha. Okay.
Again, to me, it is not about the property. I don't think your property is worth that person's life. I think the cops can handle that. That person can spend time in jail. I think that is the adequate punishment for thievery or burglary. But I think that
one could argue.
What if they just move to stop them from robbing your place?
What do you
mean? They don't go out there with a gun. They just go out.
You did say physically attack.
Well, I still don't necessarily like. I could appreciate someone that did that, like went out there to physically stop them, but I don't want someone to put their life on the line for someone who may have a weapon robbing my house. I would rather them just call the police and stay in their own home. I would like them to intervene by calling the police. Like, sure, I want you to be, like, pay attention and be a caring enough neighbor to be like, hey, my neighbor's getting robbed. The police should come. But I don't
But 5 minutes later, they may get away and you may lose all your shit.
That's fine. That's fine. That's better than your life being in danger.
Well, I mean, if the guy's willing to put his life on the line, if he's willing to take that level of risk, that's on him. That's why I'm for it, because as the individual who decides to insert themselves into a situation that could be a high risk for their particular life, this is where it gets kind of intricate, because he's inserting himself into that scenario. So he has to be aware of the consequences that come, both positive and negative. And then, of course, it comes into the dynamic of saying, when you insert yourself into that scenario, you just don't get the opportunity to just shoot two fucking people because you suspect that they're breaking in home. Because that's what we have to see. Is like.
And my point is like, I don't want that. I don't care. Like, first of all, it's your life. You can insert yourself wherever the fuck you want. You just have to deal with the consequences of that. But I don't want that. I don't want Matt, again, if you, me, and Nigel were neighbors, and you saw someone robbing my house, and you, like, let's say you knew I wasn't home, I don't want either of you to get involved. I don't want you to get out of your fucking house. I don't want you to walk over to my house and fucking confront that person. I want you nowhere near that goddamn house, because that person could have a weapon and your life could now be in danger because you chose to get involved. I don't want you involved. The only time I would appreciate your involvement is if my life were in danger. My shit in my house is not worth your life, ever, under any circumstance. It's not.
What if the scenario was if it was like 2 a.m. and I was a night owl and say you're asleep at 2 a.m. and I see it at 2 a.m.
He'd be there.
Yep.
Like, he would be there. Jakaya is saying, like, if we're all neighbors and Jakaya breaks into my home, and you guys see someone breaks into my home, and I'm home, I'm gun, please.
Yeah, come over guns blazing and blow that motherfucker away, because that is someone's life in danger.
But if you're not home.
Yeah.
To me, it's about property versus life. Like, the value to me is in human life. I don't give a fuck about the shit in your house or the shit in my house. So they can have it. They can steal it. We can call the police. Even if they get away, no one died, and I'm okay with that.
Can I be an asshole and talk about the point that you made about the you were talking about the principle of the fact that it's not the matter of the materialized items, but the act of willing to take your stuff.
Right.
Like just the willing to use aggression to take your stuff, being the aggression to just smash in your own home or go into it. Does that not still apply, or is that what we
No, the aggression in any scenario is about the aggression toward a person. It's not about the aggression. You could go in and bash all my fucking windows in, and I might be pissed, and I might want your ass in jail, but I'm not ready to kill you.
$500 a window would fucking get me pissed off.
Absolutely, but I am not willing. Jakaya, am not willing for property to be worth a life, but I am willing for threatening a life to be worth a life. That is my hard stance on it. Is if there is a life in danger, you blow that motherfucker away and don't feel twice about it. Like,
I get it.
But, and there's also, like, let's say, again, we're all three neighbors, this scenario we keep using. You don't know if I'm home or not. if you want to get involved, like, that's okay because you are worried about my life. Ultimately what I'm saying is I want you to be worried about my life, not my things. I don't care about my things. Your life is not worth my things. My life is not worth my things. But I think that my life is worth Nigel's life. Like, if I can put my life on the line to save Nigel's life, I would do it. I would do it without a second thought. But I would not, there's no circumstance that I would put my life on the line to go save Nigel's fucking ping pong table. Like, I just...
Oh, I'm saving that fucking ping pong table, Nigel. I got your...
I won't lie. Get in my house and ping pong table out of here. They've earned it. That thing's heavy as fuck. Like, because it's not just a ping pong, it's a pool table. It's a pool table as well. So it's like, man, they went like, there's a lot more easy to steal valuable shit in my home.
Right.
But so Jakaya, you think that neighbors defending each other is a moral good, but where you draw the line is that you don't think a neighbor is justified in taking someone's life unless there is your life at risk,
or like that neighbor's life at risk.
They believe it, so something along those lines. But you will believe that if us three are neighbors, us three watching each other's properties, and if we see something happening, going and addressing that is a moral good.
As long as there is a threat, as long as there is a threat of someone being harmed. Yeah, I think.
Well, Jakaya, here's where I'll pick your apart a little bit.
Damn, we're picking on Jakaya a lot. I feel kind of bad now.
No, it's okay.
It's not that because the problem that are wrong is we're okay with us, and we both want to, and we all three want to have faith, and we think it'd be a good thing that we all watch out for each other's property, and we all sit there and go, oh, someone's breaking it his house, I should do something.
Well, that's the critical difference. So you're saying property, and Jakaya is not saying property.
But this is what we're talking about with neighbors. Jakaya is saying he thinks it's a moral good, but no one should his life unless life is at danger. That's what Jakaya has been saying. He's been going, it's good to keep out for property. It's I think it would be morally good. I would appreciate it if you guys were able to, through calling the police or going out there and going, hey, get the fuck away from his house. Get the fuck out of here. Something along those lines from stopping Jakaya's shit from being taken. But where Jakaya draws the line is if I is not home, I go grab my lever action 30-30. I go over there and I go, if you fuckers move or touch any of his shit, this is the last thing you do on this earth. Jakaya's like, well, that's where you're getting a little fucking, you just let him take my shit. It's not worth it. But where I'll pick your argument apart a little bit, because you even said, like, maybe you guys don't know that I'm home while you come over all the time, but you guys are trying to defend so much about my property. I have no idea when you're going to come home, Jakaya, because that instance, the kind of gray area you have there is very difficult to ascertain. So I'm now sitting here and I'm like, it's okay. Police are gonna shit. It's totally fine. In Jakaya's house, taking a shit. Yeah, I don't need to do anything. Jakaya then pulls up, gets out of his vehicle, starts walking towards his home, and now I have to go. Oh fuck! Now I gotta go grab my gun and get everything right there and fucking protect him. That kind of thing.
Well, I think that's a pretty easy scenario to resolve. Assuming that you live in a tight-knit community, you probably have like their phone numbers, or you're close enough to their house to be like, Jakaya, come here. Don't go in your fucking home. You know what I mean? Like, or the reality is you would probably call me after you called the police and say, hey, someone is breaking into your home.
Dispatch stays on the line with you, baby.
Not always. I mean, listen, I call the police all the time. Dispatch does not stay on the line with you.
In an active fucking prop, they'll be like, yeah, where is everything? What are you doing? But I mean, like, what I'm saying is there are so many scenarios that could sit there and play out that essentially...
Again, the problem with
where it's like I don't know if you're home. Maybe your car's in the shop. I have no idea. So if we're going to operate in the sense that it's good for neighbors to, look out for one another and protect each other from outside forces that could be from criminals. Let's just say criminals. There are so many things that I in the situation now have to run through my head and make so many assessments on. That I'm not really sure, like, what would be morally good in that situation.
Well, then let me put it this way.
It would certainly be tricky.
Let me put it this way then. So, because this is a way that I think I could rectify you protecting my property, is your intent. Is your intent to protect my things or protect the people in the house? If your intent is to protect my things, I don't need your help because I don't want you to risk your life.
The intent is the opinion.
That's fine. My point is that if your intent is to protect my things, I don't want your help because I don't want your life at risk to protect my things. But if your
douchebags like John Oliver manipulate those scenarios to say, well, his intent was to do
exactly. But that's not the argument that I'm making.
Us three are.
The argument that I am making is that if your intent is to protect my things, I don't want your help. I don't want you involved. I don't want you to come over. I don't want you to put your life at risk because of my property. But if your intent is to save my life or my family's life, feel free to get involved, regardless of the knowledge of whether or not I am home or whether or not my life is in danger. So long as in your head, your intention is to save a life, I can rectify and be okay with you potentially killing someone or putting your life at risk.
I can understand that.
While I do not need to prove that, and I understand that that's where it gets a little gray and we can pick that apart, from my perspective, from my own feelings and my own moral ground, if I know that you are coming to my house to protect a life, I am happy to have you there. But if you are there because you are concerned a burglar is taking my computer, I don't want your life at risk for that. I just don't. It's not worth it. That's my point.
Yeah, well, and a lot of trouble with these like particular scenarios is like this is kind of what I was saying earlier with like any shooting. I think there's some value for even like average people to kind of see like some police training video, like police shooting videos, because you eventually see like a lot of people think they have the tactical aspect on how to handle the situation, and you find out really quickly how dynamic these situations are and how there is not a cookie cut said answer for the case, right? So it's kind of like, well, they're incredibly dynamic. It depends on a lot of variables. It depends on a lot of situations. It depends if I can, should I, whatever, like, so.
Well, and that's actually why I chose, especially after Nigel chose to pick apart my argument. The intention is the point. Like, no, you cannot prove intent, and I understand that is where it gets a little fucky. But you should choose to, like, your intention should be to protect a life.
Our entire legislation, our entire court system disagrees with what you just said that you can't intent. But yeah, okay.
But you understand my point, though.
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, to your point, Matt, yeah, I mean, first of all, we'll get this clear out of the way. If you own a firearm, you should absolutely be taking firearms in just simple, responsible fucking ownership at the fucking least.
Right.
And you should also absolutely know the law of your state as to potential use of that firearm. If you don't, then I honestly don't feel too bad about it if like you get in trouble. It's like you gotta know that stuff, man. Like I own guns, but I'm not like a huge. I don't got like fucking like 8 ARs. I don't have like this massive fucking vault. That brick right there, then comes like and I got a couple firearms. They're nothing too terribly special, but like I know it can get me in trouble with them, and I know it can't get me in trouble with them. So yeah.
Ignorance is the killer.
Derailing for one hot second because I'm a giant nerd. Because I do not own guns, I don't want a secret vault that opens up to guns. I want it to open up to all of my D&D books.
That would also be nice. I mean, I would just like to have a something, period, where I push one of these bricks and then it goes...
This is where Jakaya would be completely safe from a break-in, because the robber's going to look for something like Pandora's box in his home. Like, where's the money? Where's the money? And he has, like, this end table with, like a shelf that yes, we hit the jackpot. It's fucking D&D books. I would be the most disappointed robber in fucking Jakaya's house. I might wait in your home for you to come home so I can kill you for the wasted time.
Just a bunch of pages and throw them on the floor just out of spite.
Oh my god, that would hurt. Sir. I think that would hurt more than you just taking the book.
Right? Did you guys... So it used to be on Discovery Geographic or something like that, but it was called To Catch a Thief or something like that. Or no, Catch a Predator.
Oh, To Catch a Predator.
It takes a thief. It takes a thief. But they essentially had this dude who's like a career fucking burglar forever, and then he just went to these people's homes and they're like, he can't break into my place. We came in and he's like, okay, check this out. And then he'd like wait for like 2 weeks and then go break the fucking place whenever he fucking could and then get away. And one thing that he always did is like, if I can't take the TV, I take all the remote and then I take all the battery. That way they can't fucking use the TV because I know it fucking infuriates them. And I was like, what a piece of shit. What a fucking piece of shit. Oh my god. Petty fuck.
Right?
Anyway.
You're muted, Matt. I don't know what happened.
Oh shit, I hit you. The family will spend weeks looking for that fucking remote. The husband's like, honey, have you seen the remote? They think the kids fucking lost it for about a good solid week until they start to connect it up. Did that motherfucker steal the goddamn remote when he fucking left? God damn it!
What a D-bag!
Dude, I'm telling you, people would get fucking because he'd come back with all the shit, obviously, and they'd be like, hey, and they'd be like, people would get irrationally fucking mad. Very fucking mad. They would get fucking pissed. Like, they set this whole thing up. This guy come and be like, hey, I robbed all your shit. They'd be like, man, I could beat your fucking ass right now because you fucking pissed me off. He'd be like, you asked for it. You're about to get a whole new security system in your house, so don't. I mean,
right.
All right, let's play this video.
That Joe Horn. What would happen if Bobby Hill grew up and sucked? The only time it's appropriate to cheer after someone says you shot them is if you're talking about the individual responsible for shooting this video of a family of bears in a swimming pool. Question: you saw the bears, you had your phone ready, and you shot them, right? Answer: yes, sir, that's correct. Cue the fucking applause. No other circumstances, none. And if these laws on their own weren't bad enough, there is now also a small cottage industry that's cropped up around them, selling specialized self-defense legal assistance.
Oh my God.
Most of these companies offer membership packages, including everything from educational training videos to money for future legal defense and bond. The US Concealed Carry Association insists it's primarily concerned with teaching conflict avoidance, but it also gives you a wallet-sized card with tips on how to handle the call you make to police after you've shot someone, a handy feature that their founder proudly touts to its members.
This is my very own USCCA card. You can see my name on it, Tim Schmidt. Right on the back of the card actually lists the exact instructions on what to say to a responding officer. Explain, I was attacked, feared for my life, and I had to defend myself.
Okay, setting aside the fact that looks like the most boring episode of SportsCenter imaginable, it does feel important to point out, oh boom boom. Guns are everywhere in America, these specific laws and people's actions. In some cases, you're very much... Okay,
we made a boo-boo.
Set aside that Joe
I meant to
Horn
pause
looks
something.
bad. Setting aside the fact that...
He says sets aside a lot. I just realized that. Does anyone... I can see the rhetorical problem with that, but I've also dealt with the legal system, and I know, like, how squirrely
this fucking
those
idiot,
conversations
yeah.
get. Like, if you were to call the cops because it's like, hey, I did the guy, having it handy to not subsequent, because like again, the police are probably going to arrest you. If you shoot
and
someone,
you can also incriminate yourself if you say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like, so those cards I think are valuable.
I killed this guy. I killed a guy. Holy fuck.
Yeah, that's all they can say.
And the police are like, all right, well, the transcript says I killed a guy. I killed a guy. Holy shit, I killed a guy. You know, it's like, ugh. Oh,
yeah,
no.
well, and that's where I think, you know, we brought this up earlier. That's where I think a lot of these fucking arguments are so shitty, is because, like, our legal system is all about twisting laws and twisting words and blah, blah, blah. Like, that is what our legal system is fucking basically built on. And the fact that he's upset about this, like, I understand it from a very, very shallow argument. But when you start getting into how important it is to be very precise about the words that you say within the legal system, it makes way more sense. Because like you said, if I say I killed a guy, it doesn't really matter what I said after that, because now they have a recording of me saying I killed a guy.
Well, fuck, Bill Burr has a whole bit of this about, like, me reasons.
No, Bill Burr's a fucking joke.
No. Does not mean no, you know? No means no. No. No, stop it. No, you're so bad. Stop. No. No. That doesn't mean no. But all of a sudden, I get a bad read in court. No. No. Stop it. You're bad. No. Don't do. No. and all of a sudden I'm doing fucking 15 to life for rape. It's just like, if you do not think that shit like that happens in fucking court, anyone who's had to have a fucking prosecuting attorney fucking try and send you to jail understands how good prosecuting attorneys are at making you look like a giant fucking piece of shit, no matter what
well, that's their
information they have.
job. Yeah.
They're there to get a conviction, not truth.
Right.
So I have an issue with that.
It looks like the most episode of SportsCenter imaginable. It does feel important to point out that they've essentially created a get-out-of-jail-free card, and that, mixed with that man's get-out-of-jail-free complexion, is a pretty awful combination. And at least one of USCCA's clients apparently took the advice on that card and ran with it.
Carlos Garcia's ex-wife, Jailene Ayala, paints him as a loving father who would do anything for his children. She believes he was intoxicated when he showed up to pick up his kids and got into an argument with the next-door neighbor, Nick Julian IV, over him playing loud music in the car. Julian armed himself with a handgun and shot Garcia, he claims, in self-defense. Neighbors came out as Julian IV was on with 911.
911, what is your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I just had a man attack me in my front yard. He attacked me, and I had to use force. I was afraid for my life.
Yeah. It seems all you have to do is memorize a few key phrases and you too could be free to shoot with impunity. It's basically Rosetta Stone for justified homicides.
I want to see John Oliver shoot somebody and say that.
Nick Julian made sure to say he feared for his life 3 separate times and can also be heard referring to his wallet and saying to someone, you just need to call them, give them the account number and my attorney. And by the time the police arrived, he was already on the phone with the US Concealed Carry Association setting up his legal defense before his victim had even been declared dead. And I know it might seem like these laws...
Did he go to jail? Like, that's really what I'm waiting for in the rest, because I haven't gotten this video.
I don't know.
That's
the stupid
really
thing
what
is,
I'm waiting for. It's like, none of that matters if like he got convicted and went to fucking prison. It's
and
like,
the other
okay,
thing
well,
is,
that
like,
doesn't
what
fucking
it is,
work.
I don't know if I missed it or if he said it, but how hostile did the neighbor get?
He did.
According to the wife of the guy that got shot, he pulled up. He was in front of the house, and his music was playing loud. And then that guy came out and shot him. We don't actually know because that's a testimony, not a police report.
Yeah, but John Oliver makes it sound like this little cue card is a get out of jail free card, and I really want him to go ahead and shoot somebody anywhere on the street and say that cue card and see if he gets out of jail free, because I guarantee he's gonna go to fucking jail for just shooting somebody and saying, "I was feared for my life." Bang.
Yeah, like
that's not
prosecuting
how that
attorneys
works.
are pretty good at going like, that's not how this works. Let's see if we can find his name and if someone.
And I had to use force. I was afraid for my life.
Yeah. It seems all you have to do is memorize a few key phrases and you too could be free to shoot with impunity. It's basically Rosetta Stone for justified homicides. Because during his 911 call, Nick Julian made sure to...
Nick Julian shooting, if anyone can look that up.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Keep going with the video.
And see, and I think it was in Florida, so... but Nick Julian shooting...
To say he feared for his life 3 separate times and can also be heard referring to his wallet and saying to someone, you just need to call them, give them the account number and my attorney. And by the time the police arrived, he was already on the phone with the US Concealed Carry Association setting up his legal defense before his victim had even been declared dead. And I know it might seem like these laws are just a free-for-all to shoot someone who scares you, but the truth is there are some limits, and you probably know where this is going. Because while most civilian shootings involve people of the same race, when cases involve shootings across racial lines, there are significant disparities in whose fear gets believed. Because the odds a white-on-black homicide was deemed justified by the police were 281% greater than the odds a white-on-white homicide was. And the expansion of stand-your-ground laws have appeared to worsen that disparity by the police. Across racial lines, there are significant disparities in whose fear gets believed. Because the odds a white-on-black homicide was deemed justified by the police were 281% greater than the odds a white-on-white homicide was.
Yes, ma'am.
See, that's strange phrasing. So, a white-on-black homicide is 281% greater to be found as a self-defense shooting or justified than a white-on-white, well, then it's not a homicide. So, I mean, like, I'm really wondering, and I mean, it's from somewhere called Urban Inquiries, it looks like. Urban Institute. So, justifiable homicide, stand your ground laws, analysis, FBI supplementary homicide report data. I mean, I just kind of confused on this. I mean, there could be the case, but again, like, these data sets are so difficult when you fucking get into it. Because who knows? Like, we really don't know. If we do just find a straight 1-to-1 fucking ratio, then yeah, absolutely. And I am probably inclined to believe that that is the case. But the way that it is presented is, I don't think, very good. There needs to be more to this.
He was not convicted due to lack of evidence.
Due to lack of evidence.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this reaffirms my my entire life fucking... You can ask anyone that knows me personally, not that any of you on the internet will know. What's the first thing you do if you think you've committed a crime or the police are on their way? You fucking get a lawyer and you shut the fuck up.
Of stand your ground laws have appeared to worsen that disparity. In fact, I'm pretty sure would surprise exactly 2 of these 3 men. Not only that, but there are multiple examples where you would think if ever a stand your ground law would apply, this would be the case, and yet it didn't. Take S.A.W. Salama Ra, who waved an unloaded, registered gun at a woman she believed was trying to hit her and her young daughter with her car. But even though her state of Michigan has a stand your ground law, and even though that incident clearly falls under a reasonable definition of self-defense without it, and even though she didn't even shoot the gun because, again, it was unloaded, she was sentenced to 2 years on the charge of using a gun to commit a felony. And while, after outcry, she was eventually able to plead to a lesser charge,
What'd you say?
that wasn't before she'd spent
It was
a year in
unregistered
prison.
firearm, he said. That's why she went to fucking jail. I already knew that when he said, unregistered firearm, you stupid fucking cunt. Fuck you doing with an illegal goddamn gun? What fucking Sleepy Joe's fighting for?
Yeah, that means the serial number was removed, right?
Yeah!
Yes.
Well, what did I go to jail for? So I defend myself. You don't get to carry a goddamn illegal firearm, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, that's not exactly a great one right there. It's like, well, did she go to jail for the stand your ground anything? No, she went to jail for possession of an unregistered firearm.
Is that actually why she went to jail?
That's what
guaranteed. I haven't even gotten that far yet, but I guarantee it.
That incident clearly falls under a reasonable definition of self-defense without it. And even though she didn't even shoot the gun because, again, it was unloaded, she was sentenced to 2 years on the charge of using a gun to commit a felony. And while, after outcry, she was eventually able to plead to a lesser charge, that wasn't before she'd spent
a fucking mouthful. I'm not gonna fucking remember. It was like it was, oh my friend. It was a mouthful.
I get you, but you guarantee it was because it was unregistered. That
there are
dipshit
multiple
said
examples where you would think if ever a stand your ground law would apply, this would be the case, and yet it didn't. Take S.A.W. Salama Ra, who...
S.A.W. Salama Ra.
Good luck with that, my friend.
Waved an unloaded, registered gun at a woman
unloaded
she believed
registered.
was trying to hit her and her young daughter with her car.
Take that shit.
Even though her state of Michigan has a stand your ground law, and even though that incident clearly falls under a reasonable definition of self-defense without it, and even though she didn't even shoot the gun because, again, it was unloaded, she was sentenced to 2 years on the charge of using a gun to commit a felony.
Now, I will say that what seems funny is he's simultaneously making the argument that standard laws are too, but also not enforced nearly enough. Oh.
I wonder if there was a concealed carry permit or something missing. There's more to this.
But he's making... I mean, potentially. I'm not Googling that fucking name. I don't even know where to begin.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, he's saying that she used a gun and she went to jail for using a firearm that was unloaded and safe.
Well, potentially that could be the case. It could be the case that it was an unregistered firearm. It could be some other secondary fucking charge.
I really doubt... Well, he's trying to say, like is he playing the race bait now, like white on white, black on black?
That's the argument. The argument that he's making is that these stand your ground laws apply disproportionately to white people than black people.
Yeah, and that's bullshit.
I'm generally super skeptical on those arguments just because it's like, who knows, maybe, but several other things. But I mean, she had a 2-year mandatory. Well, why would it be mandatory sentence on the charge of using a gun to commit a felony? So was there something else going on? Is that the felony that they were trying to talk? I'm not sure.
Did she go to the gas station and say that the clerk was threatening her? She pulled out a gun and said, "I'm gonna take his gun because you threatened me."
The whole thing was that she had an and she
loaded or not doesn't matter as long as you brandish the firearm.
It doesn't. That's not the point. The point is that there was someone that was in their vehicle, and she believed that this person was trying to run her over with the car, and then she brandished the firearm. And then something occurred in the interim, and she served a 2-year mandatory sentence on the charge of using a gun to commit a felony. So, I don't know. There's probably more that goes in that.
I'm sure there is.
But I mean, I'm not really sure. But my big thing is like, okay, so, John Oliver, are you okay with stand your ground laws? Or are you against stand your ground laws? Or are you just okay with stand your ground laws, but you think, would you be okay? I mean, I would love to have him sitting here and be like, so are you okay with stand your ground laws? Like, do you think stand your ground laws are a good thing? And I would imagine he would go, well, no. And then I'd be like, okay, well, then what does this matter then at that point?
I cannot speak for him, but, like, my perception of this video is that he's actually not against the idea of it. It's just that the execution doesn't land the way that it's supposed to. Like, his idea is that, like, yes, you should be able to defend yourself, but the stand your ground law gives people too much ground to defend themselves in situations in which they shouldn't have been able to. But it's also not giving people the credit who actually deserve it. So I think
he highlighted that point too, in that where he had said that there was that. Remember when in the beginning there was somebody had said that there was a gray area. Like, yeah, we're for it, but sometimes there is that gray area that gets involved where we have
There's going to be fouls and stuff like that.
Right, and I think this is where he's picking on. And I'm with Jakai in this. I feel that way about him because he's never really said where it entirely was a bad idea, just where it has failed.
Okay, so he hasn't said entirely where it's a bad idea, but he's had 12 shitting on
12 minutes of cases where it failed under very, very, very strange circumstances when it may not need apply.
And then poisoning of the well of the woman who apparently got most of the stand your ground laws to be in place. You don't have to sit here and state, I think this is a bad thing. I mean, maybe he'll say it in closing arguments that he's like, I don't actually have a problem with stand your ground laws. I just feel like they're not applied fairly. But even if that's the case, I'm like, you went a pretty disingenuous way about doing this, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of his arguments are pretty disingenuous.
So.
Very much so.
Find anything more about that? Oh, yeah, get acquitted. Find anything about that nightmare of a name?
No, I've been looking. I can't find it.
Let's not worry about it then.
And while she was eventually able to plead to a lesser charge, that wasn't before she'd spent a year in prison, and she was pregnant at the time and was forced to give birth in shackles.
Well, like we said,
despite
prosecutors
to increase...
That actually goes on another thing. Everyone remember, prosecutors are not there to find the truth. They are there to get a conviction, whether or not they believe it is correct or not. They are there fucking conviction. If any crime that is fucking committed, anything that could potentially be a crime, if you're talking to a fucking cop, don't say shit without a lawyer. Don't say a fucking... They will absolutely get you. You will do fucking time if you do so. They are not your... Prosecutor is not your friend. District attorney is not your fucking friend. The police officer interviewing you is not your fucking friend. Shut the fuck up.
Safety. Ground laws actually increase violence, and given around 4 centuries of history, seeing a law around who's afraid of who was always going to be dangerous. It's the reason Ohio State legislator Stephanie House stood up to oppose her state passing its standing ground law back in 2018.
When your presence, when your being, your blackness causes fear. Do you hear what I'm saying? I've been in
Race bait.
these floors where I hear people tell me, you know people scared of you. It's people I have never interacted with. What do you do in places and spaces when your presence,
I'm scared she's gonna fucking eat
literally,
me.
your face,
You're just gonna take away all my
your
rights.
face causes someone to be fearful of you. This is a bad idea for people that look like me.
Exactly. That is just
Yeah, you're
one
fat and you
of the
look
things
hungry.
that makes these laws so dangerous. They can exalt a white person's fear over a black person's life and are applied so unequally.
That is such bullshit. So any faith that he would have said, I think stand your ground laws are good, but I think they're enacted fucking badly, right there just went out the fuck.
He's race baiting.
Yeah, because he's equivocating the stand your ground laws with just the reason stand your ground laws are there is white people can justifiably shoot fucking black people, and that is an absolutely fucking ridiculous fucking statement.
Yeah, black people
That
do
is-
enough of that on their own.
Yeah, spicy take. But I mean, like, that is
But it's
absolutely
statistically
ridiculous
true.
take.
Black
Like,
on
that
black
doesn't-
violence is far greater.
Yeah. It's just you're not wrong. Well, it's technically about the same. You're far more likely to be assaulted or killed by someone of your own race than someone outside of your race. But that is the epitome of poisoning the well of an argument. You know, John Oliver could make a lot of statements at going, I disagree with stand your ground laws because of A or B or C, and he did partially. He thinks that they increase the amount of violence in a state, that they don't actually decrease the amount of violence, and that he believes that stand your ground laws allow for a lot of people to get away with murder by simply stand your ground as fucking defense. But right here, this is literally just poison the well. This is making the equivocation that stand your ground is racist. And that to me is just so fucking disingenuous.
Real quick before you restart it, I found it. She had a concealed carry permit. She was living in Michigan. It was registered and it was unloaded, and the woman apparently did try to hit them with a car. So I'm trying to read into it a little more, but it sounds like she really did not get the defense she deserved.
It sounds like she's totally in the right. I mean, did she like countersue the state for wrongful?
I'm not sure. I'm still reading. I'll let you.
Because I mean, she's fucking ought to.
Right.
But if she was pregnant, went into labor in jail, that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, just the whole situation was fucking rough.
Mm-hmm.
Just the whole situation is absolutely fucking rough. That sucks fucking ass. I wonder if that would have changed the case if she had one of those fucking cards that he was shitting on before that told you exactly.
Would have changed if she didn't live in a liberal state.
Michigan's not that liberal.
Wait.
Michigan is not that liberal.
And it's a stand your ground state. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, had that little card to specifically go over, like, hey, here's lawyers telling you what you need to say when you fucking call the police after you fucking shoot at someone. Might have changed the outcome of the case. Again, prosecutors do not look for the truth; they look for convictions.
Gave birth while this guy gets a fucking parade. Stand your ground laws have contributed to a society where vigilantes with guns feel they have the right to decide what is safety, who is a threat, and what the punishment should be. They have turbocharged everything from road rage incidents to pointless disputes over dog weights. So, what can we do? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. Don't pass any more stand your ground laws and repeal the ones that exist. They're redundant solutions to a made-up problem, and they are actively doing harm. In the past year, at least 14 bills have been introduced in 5 states to roll their stand your ground laws back. And if you live in a stand your ground state,
not likely to happen in
especially
Florida,
one where those bills have been introduced, you should absolutely write to your representatives to urge them to repeal them as soon as possible.
So Steven Crowder gets kicked, but this is fine.
He's a cuck.
I mean, the rest of this seems pretty pointless. Another 20 seconds of him just going, "You should repeal these laws."
Yeah.
Which, you know,
in
again,
conclusion, so he's anti.
Again, there does give us his answer, which is he's like, I think standard grounds are objectively terrible, because he wants them repealed. Now, I would like to see the John Oliver video of abolish the police or defund the police.
No shit. Oh well, it's all race baiting.
Yeah, because hey, John, are we supposed to? If we remove these laws for citizens to be able to protect themselves while they're out in the street with lethal intent, because I mean, like, you know, like it's easy to sit there and think like, oh, well, I'm a big guy, I know how to fight, whatever. I'm not that worried about someone killing me. But like, Kiki's a little itty
I
bitty
hate
person.
that mentality
You
because
know?
it
So it's
yeah,
like, I
because
can
you can
stretch
defend
these
yourself.
test
It speaks
cases
for
out.
all.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can stretch these cases out and find ridiculous extremes that completely justify both sides of this fucking law, but that doesn't actually help anything really. You have to take them all into account and just go, what is the best,
right.
you know? And in my opinion, you can't simultaneously have the mentality of defund the police in states, but then also take away a citizen's capability to defend themselves with potentially deadly force.
They never. It's like they don't believe in any level of deterrence from the citizens. Like, you know, people that. And in fact, wasn't there recently just a situation where a guy prevented a mass shooting with his own firearm? Like, they never talk about these.
Arkansas, I think. Either in Arkansas
And
or
these
Arizona.
happen. Yeah, and they happen quite a bit. I mean, this isn't to say that there aren't tragedies that happen with people that are negligently using their firearms, and they typically get prosecuted for those particular things anyway. They never cover that. People like Jamie Oliver just push a specific narrative, and it's very clear that he's just, he believes that there is this level of
You are
systemic
never
racism.
gonna get his name right, are you?
Is it Jamie? It's John. Fucking loser.
John.
I hate this fucking punk. Anyway.
Who do you know named Jamie Oliver that keeps fucking
I don't even know who the fuck Jamie is. Maybe I'm thinking of Leon, one of Leon's old shows when he was a kid. Anyway.
I have no
And this guy thinks that everything's systemically racist, and so if he ever does a video on cops, we know that it's going to lean on the racist factors, so.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't know. That was crazy. He didn't have any solid, concrete point. I think his only good argument for the stand your ground law was what's her name, who it sounded like so far at the surface value was that she did it based on how I feel you should, and she went to jail for it. So
I'll be honest, I've read 2 articles about everything that went on. I just linked to one of them, and like it really feels like this girl just got fucked. It feels real bad. Like she got screwed by the system every which way you could get screwed. She was denied bond twice. When she was having her baby, she was in shackles, and the doctor told them that they should take the shackles off, and they said no, she's too dangerous. Like she really got fucked. Like it feels like, listen, I know that we try to talk about like not bringing race into it, or like we feel that a lot of people overly bring race into it. This feels kind of racist too. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like she got real fucked over some dumb shit.
Wow.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. It absolutely could be. I mean, pretty much everyone in America agrees on 2 fucking things: our court systems don't function properly, and our fucking corrections institutions are fucking horrible.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like everyone is like, yeah, like, fuck yeah, those things need fucking reworks, my dude. Because it's absolutely wild. Like once you get into that system, I mean, that's another thing where like why it's like, oh well, we got these cards where people, John Oliver, you almost got me saying Jamie Oliver now. John Oliver is saying like, well, you have these USCCA cards that essentially tell you exactly what you need to say to a police officer or a dispatcher when you're calling in if you do fucking shoot someone. And it's like, again, yeah, because that because this justice system is absolutely not fair. They're out to fuck you. And once you're in there, it is fucking horribly difficult to fucking get out of it.
Yeah, these places like the UCAA also make you pay monthly for them to allow them to have a level of they have defense attorneys on standby. And again, for what you just said, for that exact purpose, because again, the court systems don't exactly work. And in fact, just being a law-abiding citizen with a firearm puts you I feel at a pretty large risk for someone looking at you the wrong way in the wrong light, saying it was negligent, and you could get a lot of trouble. It's not like you can shoot somebody under any circumstance, be it defense or not. It's not like you could just use that firearm and expect that you're just, I'm good. Like, nope, you better
fine.
hope
no
you
concern.
were good.
I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, even if that guy put a knife to your fucking throat, it's like, yeah, no, he really tried to kill me, and the cop's gonna go, can you prove that?
Again, the whole call. Oh God, I killed someone. Holy shit, I killed someone. Yeah. Then the prosecutor
would eat that shit up.
Yeah, like they're gonna go sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. That's where I feel like a lot of these concerns come from. Because morally, I just do not have a problem with people defending the thing.
Right, I don't either.
And I shouldn't have to fucking sit there and be like, okay, the only time I can defend myself is when I'm like either completely fucking trapped or I'm in my fucking home. There's only two places I have to run myself into a corner, or I have to get ran into a corner, or I have to like turn and try and run down the fucking block with like, you know, Daniel and Kiki fucking in tow and try and do all this fucking extra shit before I'm allowed to just go like, nah, fuck this guy, bang.
This is where I have issues with my state having that like not defend your house, but like you have to retreat. Yeah, because I have a child, like a baby. You expect me while someone's breaking my home to scoop up my baby in the living room and go, I have to run? Like, nope. The fact that I have a kid in this room means that I have no time to get this kid. You've cornered me. What am I supposed to leave the kid?
I mean, I think that that's a situation that would be resolved under like defend your castle and shit like that. Like I don't think
not Massachusetts. They don't play that game.
Not in Mass.
I mean, maybe, but like I think that universally people are pretty okay with if a child is in danger, defend it. Like,
well, we say that up until you have a prosecuting attorney. Like that's the thing. Up until you're arrested, you know, like that.
Look at this lady who almost got hit by a fucking car in Michigan.
Well,
actually, yeah.
Well, and we've already talked about how the fact that prosecuting attorneys are based on like the stats of how many people they put away, not the quality of like the people they put away, is a big fucking problem. So like that's a whole.
Have you ever seen Better Call Saul? That's just funny.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think this shit is so wild. I also don't understand, like, maybe the resolution is more strict vetting of who gets guns, or I don't know. I don't know the full process of that either. So like, I'm just kind of talking out my ass. But like, you've got so many people, like in some of these instances that he tries to bring up, and whether or not his arguments are good or not, these people that are like, I felt threatened, and it's like, there's no world in which you were actually threatened here. Like, why? I don't understand, like, it's so hard for me because I believe myself to be a generally morally good person to imagine a world where there are people who are like, yeah, I got angry and shot the guy because I was angry. Like, why? I don't understand. I just don't get it.
Well, I mean, there are always psychopaths in society, but I mean, like, you know, again, you can find test limit cases at like the extremes of anything, and you'll find like, oh, here's where someone broke the rule and got away with it. Yeah, absolutely. But overall, I would imagine a vast majority of the people who are in the situation, like the guy who shot the guy in his fucking front yard and then read the fucking shit off the card, I fucking bet you 9 times out of 10 that guy goes to fucking jail. You know, that guy goes to jail. And we don't know what the acquittal is on. I mean, it can depend on the jury that you can get. It could depend on the grand jury that you get. It depends on whether or not the police filed the fucking report properly, and you're like, oh, whew, I'm out. You know, shit like that. There's lots of things that can come into play like that. You know, who's that guy's dad? We don't know. Maybe he's the governor. I don't fucking know.
Right.
You know, there are lots of ways where we could essentially break this, but overall, I would much rather live in a society where you are more than capable of defending yourself than live in a society to where I am forced to not only give up my personal property but also potentially my bodily autonomy to someone who is willing to break the law and is a violent individual. Even if they're not a violent, they're willing to fucking break the law.
Well, and I pretty much agree. Again, like we may differ on whether or not property is important, but when it comes down to the fact that your life could be in danger with no way to defend yourself, I'm not a big fan of that. So
yeah, I guess I would rather 10 guilty people go free than 1 innocent man rot in jail. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree too.
Yeah, right. So that was us discussing John Oliver there. Like I said, in my opinion, incredibly flimsy. I hear so many people. One of my buddies, I won't mention him by name, but he'll consistently love discussions. He'll be like, "Well, did you see John Oliver?" And I'm just like, "No." Why is that? I'm like, I think he's a fucking idiot. I think he sounds way smarter than he actually is because we're Americans and he's British. And as soon as you have a British fucking accent, Americans think you're like fucking 8 IQ points higher than you actually are.
Jokes on that fucking loser, because it's his goddamn British accent that pisses me off.
I don't know. I don't know why people would quote him as like this all-knowing source. Like he throws in some stats and has some memes in between. Like I don't think that he's that much more informed than any one of us who are just doing this fucking random podcast. Like it doesn't feel like.
But, yeah, I mean, like, and that's my thing. That's why I'm like, with all of these fucking shows, I'm like, you should be significantly more informed than I am, because all I'm doing is fucking Google searching some fucking shit and going, oh,
see,
okay.
People
you
like
got a
him
goddamn, this is a multi-million-dollar fucking show on a multi-million-dollar fucking network with teams of fucking writers and researchers and shit like that. So
people like him prove the narrative that these major companies, or again, it's a bigger picture here, that they want to push a specific narrative. It's not about the news. It's not about spreading out a specific piece of information that might be concerning to a general public. No, it's just about just getting across a specific narrative that's the same that these guys all push, whether it be something systemically racist or something that doesn't bode well with, a particular political affiliation. We don't like it. So here's the information that we're going to give you, not all of the information.
Right.
Gotcha. So, to wrap it up here, does anyone feel as though their opinions have changed?
No. I think I pretty much saying the same.
I'll say mine have. For the first time, Jakai, I've heard someone actually give me a more rational argument for the property versus life thing. So I'll say my opinion has changed slightly on that. I'll probably from now on, when I hear that, I'll be like, okay, like what specifically do you mean here? Do you mean just blanket all property does not equal life? Because I'll outright disagree with that. But but that has changed a little bit for me. I've softened ever so slightly on the property versus life argument.
Very
specific circumstances though.
Well, and just to I know that we're getting ready to shut it down, but just to touch on that a little bit, like that's one of the reasons I hate all those arguments that like no property is worth a life. Like sure, but there are circumstances within that make it worth a life. First of all, some people do value property very highly. Do I think they're right or wrong? That's not really for me to say, but people value those things. Two,
if you broke into someone's house, would you expect to get shot?
Right, exactly, yes.
I
right.
would.
And so, and the other thing is, like, when you say that property is not worth life, who's to say that property is the only thing in danger in that situation? You know what I mean? If a person is home, their life is in danger. Whether or not you believe that, like, that person is there knowing that they're home. Their life is in danger, period. Like, so I just feel like that's such a misleading argument to say, like, no property is worth a life. It's like that situation is much more nuanced than that. And people need to stop blanketing it as if a robber does not deserve to die. Like, they're willing to put someone's life in danger to be a robber. Therefore, blow that motherfucker away and don't even think twice about it. Wipe your hands and say, thanks, try again next time in the afterlife. Like, who fuck them?
We said that those are occupational hammers for being a robber because we hold the same standards for, like, military and police personnel. Well, you are going to get shot if you go into this situation. So robbers are kind of like an occupational hazard.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Hey,
if your profession is stealing...
Yeah, if your profession is stealing or your profession is kicking at people's doors, hey, guess what? You're going to get fucking tagged.
Right?
Hey, man.
Right.
I didn't win the lottery today.
Yeah. All right. So we'll wrap it up there. Matt, any last leaving quotes?
Nah. My opinion is pretty much it. If they changed it, it's just that I hate John Oliver a little bit more.
Jamie Oliver.
Jamie Oliver.
All right. Well, this was the Screaming at Walls podcast, everybody. I hope you had a good time listening, and I hope we didn't ramble on too long. Everyone have a great life. Peace, love. See you later.